up guys, this is Coding Cleverly here with a brand new video. Video's topic is about command line arguments. Command line arguments are optional arguments that are passed by the operating system to the main function of a C++ program. This is the main function and these arguments are going to be passed by the operating system. And unlike normal arguments which are passed during the runtime of a program, these command line arguments are passed during the execution of a program. So these are passed when the program is executed. So once we have like it compiled and then executed, we could pass them during that period. So how are we going to pass in command line arguments? This is my sample main.cpp file. So let's just have something in here. I'm going to have a traditional hello world prompt. So there you go. Write G++ and then the name of my file, which is main. And then I know that by default when we do -o, our name executable could be changed. So I could say something like program. So when I write program, it's compiled successfully. And when I write my executable file name, I'm gonna get hello world as my output. But before that, what we could do is this thing over here, this program, is the name of the executable. Now the compiler has translated the program into an executable called program. The executable name itself is actually the first command line argument. So this executable, which is program, is the first command line argument. In order to pass additional command line arguments, you just simply need to add arguments after the executable name. So if multiple command line arguments are passed, they need to be separated by spaces. We have a program, and then we have something like, let's say, coding, and then we have space cleverly. Now these are 3 arguments, and notice that nothing happened and just hello world printed onto the terminal screen. All right, so how do I get this, and how do we do this? Now, one important thing to note is that command line arguments are always passed as strings. Even if you have something like 1, 2, 3, or 4, 5, 6, now these are numbers, right? These are numeric arguments, but they will be automatically converted to strings. So now let's see how to use these bad boys. Using command line arguments is pretty simple. Now, you know that the main function up till now had nothing inside of its parameters. We just left it empty. But in order to use command line arguments, the new form of main function has to take 2 arguments. One is called int argc, and the other one is called the character, and it's called a pointer to character, and we have an arg, and then we have v, and then we have this square, which is the index. These are the 2 parameters. One is argc, and the other one is argv. The argc is called the argument count. Now it is an int parameter containing the number of command line arguments passed into the program. The value of argc is at least 1 because when we run the code, we had the name of the executable, which in this case was program, and this was the first value of argc. What is argv is called argument vector, and this is an array parameter containing the values of command line arguments. Now the range of argv varies and spans from 0 all the way to the argc -1. So argc over here is the argument count, and the last of it, meaning not the size but size -1, is where it spans across this argv thingy right here. So to make this a little more understandable, what we could do here is after the hello world prompt, we could have a for loop running, and we could have it as int. So we could have int I is equal to 0, and then we could go I is less than the argc, which is the size, meaning it's going to be less than the size of it, and we're going to have I++. And what we want is, we basically want the argv, the argument vector content. And how do we get that? We're going to get it in indices. So we're going to have console output here. We're going to have our arg, and then we're going to have the space here. We're going to have the I value. We're going to have a colon here. So we're going to have a colon, and we're going to have an arg, and then we're going to have the v and the subscript, which is I index, and then we're going to have a \n over here. So Now what you can see here is that we have a console output and we're getting the argument, and then it's going to be arg1, which is over here argument count 0. We'll start from 0, so argument count 0, then argument count 1, then argument count 2 if there is possible, and then we're going to have it separated and we're going to get the content here. So argv, which is the argument vector, and it's going to contain the value inside of it. So like for instance, arg0 would have the name of the executable, which is in this case was program, so program will be shown on the terminal screen. And then we're going to be separating it using \n, which are escape sequences, new lines. So we're going to be separating using new lines. I save the program, now I'm going to run it. Now I'm going to write g++, and I'm going to write main.cpp, and now I'm going to change, and I'm going to say program with a capital P in this case. And now we're going to have the program with a capital P, and then we could write anything inside it, so we could have coding. So this means that we have now 2 arguments passed in. So we have a space, they're separated by spaces. Now this is the third argument, so cleverly is the third argument. Over here you can see right after hello world we had the argument count 0, and it had program, which was the first one by default. That space, and after that the second argument appeared, which is coding, and right after that a space, and then the cleverly, which is the third argument. So that's how it's separated. One important note here is that arg0 is always the name of the executable, nothing else. One thing I wanted to add here is that we could either have a pointer to character, and it could be argv, and this is like it's pointing to string of characters, right? Like a string. So we could have either this, or we could have double asterisks, and then we could remove this index, and now this would still work. So this is another way to do it. Now, what are special cases here? Suppose we want an argument that has spaces inside, and we want that as a single command line argument. How do we do that? Is we could enclose it in double quotes. So for instance, suppose that I had a program, right? But I wanted coding cleverly as one argument. I could enclose it using double quotes, and I could just write coding cleverly in here, and it will treat that as a single argument. And you can see over here in arg1, it's coding cleverly. If an argument contains literal double quotes, it has double quotes inside. So I have program, and then I have a literal double quote, for instance, coding cleverly needs double quotes. How could I do that is I could have the backslash prepended before that. So over here, I could have a backslash, and right after this, so I could have that. So you can see over here, we have a double quote and it included it right there. And then after that space, and then it has this cleverly. So we have these double quotes inside of it. The operating system is responsible for handling special characters such as spaces and double quotes. So that concludes our video. It was pretty short. I hope you got maximum benefit out of this. If you like this video, then give it a like and share it. And if you didn't like it, go hit the dislike button and tell me why in the comment sections. I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Peace out.